Good morning, gentlemen. I'm here with Russell Veitch and Con Sotodis. Have I pronounced that correctly, Con?
Sotidis. That's it.
Let me get the pronunciation correct. And these are two very talented gentlemen who are experts in their field. Russell, I worked with almost 20 years ago when he was making a career transition. And Con, I've met because we've been corresponding back and forth quite a lot on LinkedIn. So we've developed a relationship on LinkedIn. So how good is that? Now, today, what I want to talk about is recruitment and potentially is there ageism in the workplace, because when working with recruiters, so many people, clients that come to me, they complain and they say it's very difficult to work with recruiters, but I know a lot of very good recruiters out there. I'm a former recruiter myself, and I like to give you a balanced view if possible. And so many people also say it's so hard to get a job when you are over 45, over 50, over 55, or over 60. So is there ageism in the workplace? And if you've experienced it, do type in the comments as well, if you're watching this live on Facebook or on LinkedIn, and let us know what you're feeling. But I'd like to have a discussion with Russell and a discussion with Con. So can we just have a quick 15-second introduction so people know who you are, Russell and Con? So Russell, how about you go first?
Yeah, my name's Russell Veitch, and I help very small businesses who work for big businesses. I have a lot of experience, and I can share that with younger people who find my work valuable.
Mm-hmm. And many years ago, when I first met Russell and he was going through a career transition, you felt a little bit of a loss as to what you could do next. And Russell has completely reinvented, rewired his career. And he read a very good book called Rewired, Retired, or Rehired. I may have got that wrong, but he has completely reinvented his career over the past 20 years, and you're still going strong. So your opinions will be very valuable. And what about you, Con?
Yes, my name is Con Sotidis. I've got a lot of experience in the learning and development field, and also doing a bit of work now in the branding, but learning development is my passion. I've been a director of learning development in a major public service organisation, and more recently, last 3 years, been on the vendor side, so selling learning development, whether it be LMS, learning management systems, whether it be e-learning, or even just some professional development. So that's my background.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And these two talented gentlemen have plenty to say about recruitment and also overcoming challenges when it comes to the workplace and how older workers, more mature workers, are perceived. And I'm one of the older workers as well, because I'm over 60, but I won't let anything hold me back, because I've got energy, I've got a great attitude, and if there's a problem, I'm going to find some way to solve it. Oh, that sounds like a song, doesn't it? If you've got a problem, I'll solve it. So there you go. So first of all, gentlemen, let me ask you, when it comes to working with recruiters, let's hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, all right? If you've had experience with recruiters, and I'll ask Russell first, what experiences have you had?
Look, I've had good and bad, and it's got nothing to do with what age you are. That's anybody. If you're young or old, you'll still have. What I did learn was that you're not really the client when you're working with a recruiter. The client is the agents or the companies that they engage with. So what you've got to do is you've got to make that recruiter make their job very easily by presenting yourself as a great product that they'll just be able to slot in somewhere. And that was my learning. Yeah, the bad experiences were usually mine, because I went in expecting that I'm so good that I should just walk into a job, and that wasn't going to happen. I got onto the database and disappeared. So I think it's how you manage your relationship with the recruiter. And once I managed that, I got jobs. And when you get jobs, you'll find if you're any good, if you're no good at the end of your term, the project will finish and you'll be off. If you're any good, they'll find a conniving way to get around the recruiter and give you a full-time job.
That's right. It's all, the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? It's I reckon. I mean, it's all about being able to deliver and solve the problems that the customer, the client, the employer is experiencing. And if you're a solution to the problem, it shouldn't matter what age you are at all. It's the skills and the abilities that you bring. Thank you, Russell. What about you, Con? What's been your experience?
Unfortunately, mine's all been bad. I've not had any really good. I've had two goes with recruiters. 2014, I departed the public service and went out. And again, I found it very frustrating and difficult to work with recruiters. I would submit my applications via the processes. I might get a phone call, would have an initial conversation, and that's where it was left. So either my resume was wrong. So I did. I took some initiative. I went to a professional resume service and got it done professionally, and even that didn't get me much further. And after persisting with one recruiter, I recall, I wouldn't say persistent as in ringing up, like Russell would say, ring up to sort of say, how's it going? Is anything out there? I actually got told, in the words word, to the effect of, suck it up, princess, age is an issue. So that was my very sad experience, and I'll never forget that moment. And eventually I managed to get on my feet purely on my own devices, via my LinkedIn and via my other branding sort of exercises. And I managed to get a role, and now I find myself again back in the same circus, I suppose, or the same jungle, trying to get some exposure with the recruiters. So Russell, I've done that, what you've said. I've tried to position myself. I've had conversations with a number of them. Either they're very busy, either they've got a lot of their books, and you're right, it is the client they're managing, not us. I've had one or two successes with some going to the next level of interview, and I suppose we'll cover that later on. That's where I think ageism does play a role.
Yeah, it's really disheartening when you get someone telling you, hey, age is a problem, but that's just one person's opinion as well. There are so many ways that you can try and get over it. But when you're looking for a job, sometimes you feel quite vulnerable, and someone's negative comment will affect your self-confidence as well. But it's not the opinion of all recruiters, and it certainly isn't every business. There are some businesses where they prefer to have younger candidates for simply because of the type of role. But I just want to share with you something that I was reading. There was this one person, managing director of 923 Recruitment, Catherine McMillan. She said that her team places white-collar workers in finance, admin, sales, marketing, technical roles, entry level to senior management. And she told this article, the journalist, that for many admin and tech-heavy roles, companies are actively preferencing younger candidates. So that's confirming what you've said could be true. Perfect example, she said, is of single-touch payroll. People in accounts need to be able to navigate a huge amount of software from MyGovID, single-touch payroll, and it's really quite complex. So it's that ability to be proficient in that technical use. So she said sometimes companies prefer younger people to take on these roles as opposed to older people because they have the perception that they're not digital natives. And because of those perceptions, there is the preference for the younger people. But so for people who are older workers, it's very important that they address that perception. How can we address that perception that just because we're over 45, 50 or 55 or 60, that we are not complete idiots when it comes to technology? I mean, I love technology. I've really embraced it. And so what can we do, Russell and Con? What can we do?
Well, hang on a minute. I'll just check my blood pressure while you're talking there. So you can come along with your gadget and your ear things and walk in and be looking at your phone and throw in the right sort of words. Look, I think for our generation, we were brought up in an analog world, so it doesn't come as easy as for younger kids. But look, you've really got to, it's hard. You've got to work really, really hard to be up on everything technology. And you've just got to have the words. And I think that's, and maybe face it, that's not a job that you're going to want anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you don't want every job that's out there. You want a job that will really, I love to say the word, that makes your heart sing, that you're in the right team environment with the right culture, being able to use the skills that you have. And if you need to upgrade the skills, then take that time. There's something that you shared in my book many years ago, Russell, that you said first, I mean, you've got to walk the walk, you've got to dress appropriately, project that energy and enthusiasm as well, and get up to speed. So what have you got on your wrist, Russell? you were showing us. What's that? That's your Fitbit, right?
Well, yeah, look, I can tell you how many hours I slept. And look,
Mhm.
I've even noticed that when I go for a slow walk, it considers it steps. But when I go for a quick walk, it considers it as exercise.
Oh, well, there you go. So steps versus exercise. So I bet
Yep.
you're
Making
doing a lot
decisions,
of quick
making
walks.
decisions for you.
Yeah, but
My,
it's
my,
so
my,
good to have that technology. How are you with
Yeah.
tech, Con?
well, see, you know me, Jane. I mean, I'm all over LinkedIn, so I'm very tech savvy. I've positioned myself as being tech savvy. I've worked in the tech industry, worked in the learning management system. So, and that is, you know, what you said there, I think the word perception, the perception of the older people, I think that's where perceptions become folklore and they become reality. And someone told me a long time ago that perceptions are real unless you can overcome them. So to hear, oh, there's a man, hi Dick.
Yeah,
He
hello,
got
Dick.
up. Good to see he's up and about.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
told everybody, Dick, that you don't wake up early.
Oh, apologies. I actually saw on the invite 10:30 and I thought, oh, it's 10:30. You
No,
changed.
it's 10 o'clock. You need to
My
move your green
apologies.
screen. I can see your corner of the green screen. Hang on, we Con's just talking about being tech savvy because Con is an IT professional, and he's had a bit of a challenge with some recruiters because of the perception of age. And because you're a certain age, perhaps you are not suitable for a certain role. But if you are up to speed with technology, then there is no reason why a mature age worker can't fit in if they're able to do the job and they have a really great attitude, which is
You know
what
what the
Con
flip,
has.
you know what the flip side of that is, Jane?
Mm,
Because I'm so tech savvy, I get the word you're overqualified.
mm,
That's what I was
That's the
thinking.
one.
You're
That's
overqualified.
the one that kills me the most. And then my cynical mind thinks overqualified. I put an equal sign next to that and say ageism,
mm,
because I say to people, I'm not when I go to talk to them, I said, listen, guys, I'm not after your job. You know, the recruiter or whatever. I'm not after the senior director's job. I'm here to make a difference. I want to contribute. I'm in the twilight of my career. I want to give back. I believe in paying it forward. I've had an opportunity to be mentored, an opportunity to be guided in my career. I'm now in a situation, yes, I want to put food on the table, but more importantly, I want to make a difference. And sometimes I find that hard to believe. And they think I'm there to get their job. They think that in 2 years' time, this guy's going to be going for my job. And I actually put on the table up front. Now, sometimes that's a bit confrontational to them, and sometimes they find it enlightening. But I think it's important for them to understand that I'm not after your job. I'm after to make a difference and help your organisation succeed. But getting this overqualified thing, that really hurts.
mm. And many recruiters use that as a catchphrase, just so they don't need to really explain the truth, unfortunately, because sometimes you're not allowed to say too much in recruitment. And I know when I was recruiting, people would say, can you give me a little bit of feedback? And all I could ever say, that I was permitted to say, was that it wasn't quite the right cultural fit. And I actually found it quite, because I'm a coach at heart more than a recruiter, I actually like to be able to explain to someone why it wasn't right for them, but I wasn't actually allowed to. Because you open a whole can of fish. And this is why so often people say, you know, the recruiter just won't tell me, you know, why. But sometimes you get some recruiters who will be willing to give you a little bit of advice and guidance. And next time, this is what you could do. But with regard to the overqualified phrase that people seem to bandy about so much, it's good to ask, what are the problems that require solving? This is what I can do for you, and here are some examples of how I've been successful in the past. And once you've been able to demonstrate that, then there is no reason why the conversation shouldn't move forward. What would your thoughts be, Dick?
Uh,
Oh, first of all, you better tell us who you are, because
my
men haven't
apologies.
met you.
I also try to help coach people get jobs. I focus probably on different niches, but one of the answers I also get, I've also worked in corporate about 20 years, bit over 20 years now, and actually 20 something years, I should say. I know I look young, but
So young, Dick.
I've worked in about a dozen industries, worked with a lot of CFOs, CEOs, etc. And a similar complaint that gets given to me with recruiters is they ask, especially if you're from overseas, they ask for local experience. So it's actually a similar excuse. It is, as Jane said, sometimes the easy thing to say when you can't give a you can't give a discriminatory reason. You know what I mean? So they can't say you're too old. They can't say this. They give you that reason. The fact is, it's not usually about, in that case, do you have local experience or not? It's just they have to give you some reason. It's an easy one to give. For example, in HR, they always like to tell you, they always make you feel that you might have the job as well when you leave the interview. I think my personal experience, I haven't run into it myself, but perhaps I don't, maybe my hair isn't quite as grey, so I might not run into that as a reason they would give me. So that my experience is you might have to find the real reason. Recruiters have a hard time. There's a lot of applicants. So the reality is only a few of you will get through. They will try to pick the ones that do. My feeling is it's not so much about age, but maybe about a vibe that you give about how you approach being that age as well. How do you present yourself?
Yeah. You know what's quite interesting is getting a job through a recruiter is almost like winning the lottery, to be quite honest. Because if you think about how recruitment works, if you make an online application via a job board, say you go to seek.com.au and there's the job, you read it, you tailor your resume, you tailor your cover letter, you click apply, and boom, off it goes. And then it goes into an applicant tracking system. Human beings very seldom read the resumes these days. And then when it gets passed through an applicant tracking system, it matches the keywords. And then when it matches the keywords, if you're under an 80% match, it's unlikely you're going to get a call back. It's unlikely your resume is going to be read by a human being. If you have more than 80% match, it's more likely that it will be read, but still no guarantee. And then when someone reads a resume, say if there are 100 applicants and only 20% are a 80% plus match, then that means out of 100 resumes that go in, only 20 may get read. And then out of those 20, a recruiter tends to spend about 8 to 12 seconds just scanning it, when they're actually looking at a resume themselves, a human being, and then they'll decide yes, no, or maybe. You really want to be on the yes or maybe pile. So then the resume will get read in greater detail. And if you don't have all the salient points on page 1, it could be missed. Don't make people turn to page 2. I have an amazing template that I use very often with my clients, and we tailor it depending on the situation, but captures your attention right away. And then if they think, that's pretty good, they're not going to call all 20 people. They'll call maybe 5 or 6 people. And then on the phone, what happens is, when they call you, if you're not impressive on the phone right away, you might not get past the screening call. If you get past the screening call, maybe it'll be 3 people get called in for the one-on-one interview. And then in the one-on-one interview, again, then you've got to impress, and then they'll probably screen someone else out, and then it's only 2. So then it ends up being 2% out of the 100 who applied, as an example. And then when they present that candidate to the client's got their own ideas as well. And there's always a little bit of, sometimes there can be miscommunication between what the client wants and what the recruiter thinks the client wants as well. And you see how it gets harder and harder. And by the time you go through all the interviews with the hiring manager and you get offered the role, it's like winning the lottery. So my suggestion is, don't just rely on recruiters. Use it as a small portion of your job search strategies, but by far and away, the best strategy is networking, right, Russell?
Yeah, look, I was going to say that, Con. I get phone calls from recruiters, and I say to them, I'm sorry, I'm too busy because people keep ringing up asking me to do things. So I haven't got time for recruiters anymore. I'm too busy.
I don't get any phone calls. I don't get one phone call from recruiters.
Oh, look, people just tell their friends. They say, you've got to look, and I call it 4:30 on Friday afternoon. They say, Fred gave me your name, and I've got to get this tender in on Monday morning, and he said you can help me. And I get them every Friday afternoon, and I just haven't got any time for anything else because I'm really good at that.
The network it's the network that's so
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Jeez,
Yeah.
I've got one of the strongest profiles out there.
And
Mate. I've got one of the strongest profiles out and see
You
on
do.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
give me anything.
yeah,
You know what?
the people who ring me up can't read the profile though.
So
Look,
true.
I capture a sector or I capture a nationality, and they just tell their friends, and my resume never gets read.
You know, on LinkedIn, Con has got such a great profile. You've got such good experience. And I think it's a matter of developing the relationships via LinkedIn and then reaching out as well. Because I found, I mean, statistically, it's around about 75 to 85% of roles are filled by the network.
Yes, I know that.
And right now, what you're doing on Con is so good on LinkedIn. He really has some very, very good content. And I know that there's going to be a bit more valuable content coming out from you very soon, Con, as well. But there's so much that people can learn with regard to IT and your area of expertise.
But the thing we've got to bring to the table here is there's a reason the human the HR report. I know you guys were aware that Senator Susan Ryan did a major report in finding that the largest group of people on New Start in Australia today are between 55 and retirement age. Now that's, so with all due respect, it's not just me banging this drum. I think the facts are out there, the studies are out there, the surveys are out there. What's the other quote I got here? There's a really good quote here from, I'll share these, percapita.org.au did a speech, and they said the economic benefits of hiring or retaining older workers have been quantified and demonstrated again and again. So it can only be entrenched and unfounded prejudice that prevents employers from valuing them as they should. It can be entrenched and unfounded prejudice. That's what the report has found. And this is what I'm going to put to you, Jane, maybe a question to you. Business should adopt a blind recruitment policy where CVs are submitted without gender, names, or ages. What do you say on that?
I think that would be fantastic.
It won't happen, will it?
Yeah, because then what you're doing is you're comparing blind resumes with people who have got extensive experience. They may have similar experience, but then it's all about having a really good resume that has tangible accomplishments to demonstrate the efficacy of your work when you've been in the workplace and how you've saved money, reduced downtime, streamlined processes, improved employee engagement, whatever it might be that's in your area of expertise. If you've done something that has been a benefit to the company, then let's have that in the resume as well. Dick, what do you think when it comes to resumes with blind resumes?
Well, I think what you said on your point about adapting the resume to the job description or matching them, I think that's very relevant. And I think that would probably bear out in this example. My feeling is sometimes when people have a lot of experience, they expect a recruiter to read through it and discover how great they are, where it's actually a lot of work for a recruiter to read your whole resume. You have to grab their attention early. Jane mentioned the front page before they'll read the rest of it. So in advertising, for example, they talk about, you know, readership drops off in the first 50 words, but not very much between 50 and 500. So if you get them for the first 50, they'll read 500. 500 is 1 and a bit pages. 50 is like the first part of the resume. So what I find is, and this is, you know, this might not be the perfect way to say it, but people with a lot of experience, they try not to adapt themselves so much, their resume, and expect somebody to discover how much experience they are, how valuable they are. So I think if that was the case, you might find that, and therefore, my personal experience is very easy to reach for a reason, and it might not be either the right reason or the most empowering reason. So my feeling is, if I failed at some point that I can do something about, and one of those would be the resume. So my feeling is you might have to improve your resume if you get to meet the recruiter and they don't put you forward. Sometimes they've made the decision that you're not the type of person that would get the job if they put you forward. And sometimes they've actually sent a bunch of people and they're keeping you in mind for the next role because they don't want to jeopardize their shortlist that they've got there right? They've already at interviews, they might get the job. If they send someone else in, that it might compromise the existing, because they're competitive, they're going to make commission. Sometimes they're competing against other recruiters as well.
Yeah, the important thing is that a recruiter usually works on commission. So they're employed by the company to find the ideal candidate. And sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to make a career transition and a recruiter will help me. Not really. A recruiter needs to match apples with apples, basically. They get a brief, they need to fill it. So sometimes the problem is not really with the recruiter, it might be with the employer. And I think many employers, and I agree, must be more open to diversity, in age, because mature age workers have so much to offer as well with regard to being able to provide mentorship. And especially if you keep up to speed with the latest technology and methodology, it makes a big difference. Con, I haven't seen your resume, but if you want to send it to me, let me have a look at it, because I'm pretty good at that sort of thing.
I'd love to, Jane.
And I'd be very, very happy to. In fact, I've got a couple of Zoom coaching calls coming up. One is within my Get Stuff Done accountability group, but the other one is on Monday. I posted it on LinkedIn today that anyone who wants to join, come and join, because I'm going to be talking about how to leverage online networking effectively during this downtime of coronavirus. So you guys, if you want to join, Dick, I'd love your opinion as well. So
Dick, just want to touch on what Dick said. Sorry, I don't want to hold the conversation.
Yeah,
Dick,
please.
you said about the resume. Now, are we suggesting here that every job you apply, you need to go into and customize a resume? Because if I'm applying for 10 jobs on average a week, that's 10 resumes I've got to adjust and modify. Now, my focus has been on the cover letter and ensuring the cover letter addresses the key criteria that they've outlined in the job description. But then again, a recruiter told me 2 weeks ago that recruiters don't even bother with the cover letter because they're just going to look at a resume. But if it's an organisation, the HR team, they will look at a covering letter. Is that your experience, Dick? Sorry, Jay, maybe your experience too. I apologise.
No,
it is. Recruiters will always tell you to never read the cover letter. There is a trick. What you can do on Seek, for example, allows you to type a cover letter, and that comes through as an email with your resume attached. I always pick up the phone straight after and try to contact the agent if I can, and that tries to bypass the applicant tracking software as well. You usually won't get them, but what you do is you call again, leave a message, call again, and don't leave a message a second time. Just see if you can grab them. But yes, I'd always try to tailor my CV. But what you might do is you have a start of your CV, which you might have a profile, and you can rearrange the points. Might have a bunch of points, and you can rearrange them. The most impressive resume that I saw when I was hiring was somebody who matched exactly what I wanted in my job description in the order that I asked for it, because that's how they explain it to recruiters. They say, I want this, I also want this and this. The lower down I get, it's almost like an afterthought. They put things like, great communication skills and blah, 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 right? So, but the early parts, this is what they need. If you can tell them that front, you get past that. I think the research was 7.4 seconds. They decide whether your resume is worthy or not, whether they'll read on at least. They can't read your whole resume in 7.4 seconds, but they'll read on at least. So if you don't put those points up front, I tend to put it in the order that they want it to. And you can put any other highlights in there. I'm not sure that's what your experience is, Jane.
Oh, absolutely. Con, you have to tailor every application. I know it's time consuming, but because each job description has slightly different criteria, you need to make each resume that you submit tailored for that particular role, because when a recruiter looks through, exactly as Dick said, they're looking for what they want to see. And if what they want to see hits them in the face right away, they're going to go, oh, tick yes, tick yes, tick yes, without having to search for it. And the shorter your resume is, the more impactful it is as well, because we don't want to have the entire kitchen sink in a resume of many, many pages. If it's to absolute max 3 pages, it means you're going to keep in all the accomplishments and relevant information that has the wow factor. You want them to read your resume and go, wow, that's what we want. Wow.
But us old people got a lot of experience, Jane. We want to put everything down. We've got
No.
I've got a 30-year-old career I've got to put down here.
Mhm.
So how do I capture my 30-plus career into 2 pages?
Well,
No.
that's the trouble. That is our
Thanks.
problem,
Thanks,
and
Russell.
you do have to weed it out because people don't really give a damn what you did 30 years ago. I have a degree in pure and applied chemistry, and when I did that, Watson and Crick had just discovered the double helix. Well, no one gives a damn.
Yeah,
They
they
don't
don't care
care.
what I did when I was.
Sometimes it's a matter of ego as well, because of
Yeah.
course everything you've done is so important to you, but it might not be so important to the hiring manager, because remember, what are the 3 key things that keep that hiring manager up at night? What are the problems they need solving? And then address those in your resume and in your cover letter as well.
So Dick, is 10 years a good one, or you need to go more than 10 years?
I'm told, I look, 10 years is good if something's relevant and it's important. Thing is, more than 10 years ago, your title is usually lower and on a similar role even. So that's not really that relevant. True. Unless the industry specifically is relevant. Maybe it's FMCG and you worked in FMCG, you might want to show that. But generally, 10 years is fine. If you worked in one company for 10 years, you might, and the previous role is more relevant, then it might be worth showing that. But
that's my problem. See, I've got 30 years in the public sector, and the last 5 or 6 has been where I've done something different. So I'm a one-trick pony. I was told by a recruiter, you're a one-trick pony. Even though I had 30 different jobs in those 30 years, different roles, I'm a one-trick pony.
Yeah, and that was my problem too, Con. My resume before Jane got to it and destroyed it on me was 35 years as a public servant, and I had good communication skills. I was a change manager, all those wanky things. No one gave a damn. But what did you do in the last 5 years? I saved $1 million. I did this, and I found they wanted tickets and things like that. Because when you go out into the world in an operational role, the fact that you're a change manager and you've got good people skills and things like that, that's great in the public service, but in the real world, they don't give a damn about that. That's what I found. And if you look at my resume, it changes every year now because I'm finding the currency of the last 2 years is the big thing. And what you've achieved, what have you done?
The latest methodologies, the latest technologies, how you've adapted to change. Employers really want someone who can adapt to change quite easily, because change is the only constant in employment, in the economy these days. And I mean, look at what we're going through now. People are reassessing how they actually deliver work. I mean, look at us now on Zoom. Gosh, the share prices have gone absolutely nuts because, just within weeks, there's been this necessity. So many businesses are starting to pivot. And I think as employees or as job seekers, you need to think, okay, how can I pivot to fill the need of the way that work is going to be changing? Once we've finished with all of this isolation during the coronavirus times, I believe firmly the world of work will have changed a lot. The way recruitment will be done will change a lot as well. Now, gentlemen, at 11 o'clock, I have to talk to my publisher because we're putting this book on the Kindle. So I'm very excited.
Do we all get a discount to that, Jane? Do we get a discount to that book?
For you, gentlemen, I will give it to you for free.
Oh, no, I'm happy to pay for it. I just want a discount.
No, I'll pop one in the post, you can't. I mean, you're so lucky.
You're
and Russell, you might want the latest version as well.
Well, yeah, but you'll have to write something nice in the front because I show people that.
Russell, when do I ever say anything mean? I'm just warm and fuzzy. But also, Dick has something that's very interesting that people might be interested in. It's this Thursday, isn't it? You've got an event, the virtual event. Tell us about that.
I don't do seminars, as you know. I used to do a lot of seminars, Jane. I've done probably 200-300 now. But given the current situation, I went to Zoom and started doing live webinar seminars. So I'll talk about my take, at least, on resumes this this Thursday, 5:30. So I'm going to do a live seminar. I'll do it on a board. I'll show you my perspective on it at least. And yeah, I mean, you're welcome to join that.
Is it on LinkedIn, Dick? Is it on LinkedIn?
I have put it on LinkedIn as a
Okay,
post.
I'll follow you. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. I must admit, I'm not an expert I'm not that active on LinkedIn. So
You got to talk to me, mate. You got to talk to me.
Yes.
Dick,
So,
you have to be active on LinkedIn. Come on, this is where all the job seekers are.
Exactly.
And also,
Dick, we've got to help you out, mate.
yeah,
yeah, I
also,
love the tech help. See, I'm the young guy who's bad with tech. Or younger guy who's bad.
That's a rarity.
You're breaking the mold. You're breaking the mold. But I'll put the links to Dick's event as well, and a whole lot of additional resources in my Facebook live broadcast, because this is being broadcast live on my Facebook business page, and also I will put this discussion onto LinkedIn as well, together with all of the links, because the more people that we can help, I mean, you know, I'm a career professional, Dick, you know, is a professional as well, and Russell, you've got wonderful experience, Con, you've got such talent and experience too, and I think that everyone has a message that needs to be heard, and the more people and businesses that we can help now, especially during challenging times, because we're waging this war on coronavirus, aren't we? And as I mentioned, because the world of work is changing, let's do all we can to help as many as we can. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Does
Jane.
anyone have any final words you want to impart before I speak to my publisher, Andrew?
Just to say thank you, Jane, for organising it. It's been amazing. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you so much for joining me, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you,
Three
Jane.
handsome gentlemen.
Nice to meet you, Con and Dick.
That's Russell. Dick, I'll follow
May
you.
I say,
Follow
Russell, Con, and Dick, you know, why not? I'm connected to all three of you. Why don't you all connect with each other as well? Because
I need help on LinkedIn, Con. I tried to change the background and I lost everything, so I probably do need some help.
No, we'll connect. We'll connect, Russell. We'll
yeah,
get there, mate.
and guys, remember on the 13th of April, I'm doing a Zoom coaching call. It's normally for members of the Careers Academy, but it's free for anybody who needs a bit of help on Monday, the 13th at 8 o'clock. So I'll pop the links in as well in case you want to join me.
And I want to
Take
invite
care.
you
And
to,
Thursday, remember, Dick.
Yes, and I want to invite you to, Jane, to do a seminar with me, maybe to coach people starting a business, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I enjoyed speaking at that event at WeWork pre-coronavirus days, because that was very useful and enjoyable too. So thank you for inviting me to that.